Okay, good morning. So, welcome back to our discussion. This is a continuation. We are still on the X-ray imaging system. So, the first week we have discussed the external parts of the X-ray tube, such as the protective housing and the glass envelope. And then we have also discussed about the operating console of the X-ray machine. Last time we discussed the internal structures of the X-ray tube. Of course, particular attention on the cathode and the anode. So this morning we are going to discuss the X-ray machine accessories, in which if we say accessories, they were not really part of the X-ray machine. However, they are essential for the image formation. Okay, so we will discuss our discussion with the Xray cassette. So as you can see in our illustration, so these are our Xray cassette, this one. So I have here arranged according to their sizes. Okay, so the Xray cassette is the rigid holder that contains the film and the radiographic intensifying screens. The front cover, the side facing the source, is made of material with low atomic number such as plastic. It is thin yet sturdy. The front cover of the cassette is designed for minimum attenuation of the X-ray beam. So as you can see in here, so this side should always face the X-ray tube. Okay, so it says here that the front cover is made of material with low atomic number. However, the material that's mentioned here is just the plastic. But in the newer version, meron na tayong iba-ibang uri. Meron na ibang mga materials that are used as front cover for the X-ray cassette. Tigam niya, front cover pa lang tayo. Okay. So again, what is the purpose of the cassette? So it holds the film and the intensifying screen, which means inside these cassettes, nandoon yung intensifying screens and the X-ray film. Okay? So one of the materials developed early in the space exploration program was carbon fiber. Kanina yung na-mention natin is only the plastic, but we are now mentioning here the carbon fiber. This material was developed for nose cone application because of its superior strength and heat resistance. It consists of principally of graphite fibers with atomic number of 6 in a plastic matrix that can be formed to any shape or thickness. So, as what you can see in our example, this is the nose cone application. So, one of the main important materials that was used here was the carbon fiber. Ano ulit? This is made of graphite fibers. Sabi dito, it can be formed to any shape or thickness. Okay, let's move on. Ito yung sinasabi natin, which can be formed to any shape and thickness. So in radiology, this material now is used widely in devices designed to reduce patient exposure. A cassette with a front that consists of carbon fiber material absorbs only approximately half the number of X-rays that aluminum or plastic cassette does. So meaning, there is a greater attenuation other than aluminum or with plastic. Other than that, it is designed to reduce patient exposure. Kasi if we use aluminum or plastic, there is absorption of radiation. Kaya tataas ng technical factor para makapush through yung radiation towards the intensifying screen or the film. Yun. Okay. So carbon fiber also is used as palette material for fluoroscopic examination couches and computed tomography beds. So if you can see in our illustration, the couch or the bed in the CT scan machine has what we call this one, the carbon fiber. So, ganun din yung purpose, diba? Because in CT scan, the radiation is inside this donut-shaped equipment. So, kailangan yung while it is rotating, so may penetration dapat sa patient which is lying in this bed or this couch. So carbon fiber not only reduces patient exposure, it also produces longer tube life because of the lower demand radiographic techniques required. Because if we use aluminum, sabi natin kanina, kailangan taasan natin yung technical factor para magkaroon ng penetration sa aluminum pa lang. Other than that, dapat may penetration pa din sa patient. Okay? Sige. So, we have discussed the front side of the Xray cassette. How about its back? Or, sige. Between pa lang. So, let's open. So, from the front, let's open. Ito yung internal ng ating cassette. Ano? So, you can see our intensifying screen. Okay, sige. So, between each screen and the cassette cover is some sort of compression device such as radiolucent plastic foam which maintains the closed screen film contact when the cassette is closed and latched. Okay? So, ulitin natin. So, inside the cassette, nandoon yung intensifying screen plus the film, which is the most important in diagnostic imaging. So, as you can see in here, there's the foam. So, girls, remember, kasi sa inyong bra, ang foam is pampahighlight ng breast. Kung walang breast, so, dinadaan na lang sa foam. Dito sa cassette, iba. Yung function niya is, sabi dito, maintains the screen film contact when the film is closed and latched. So, mas iniipit niya yung film sa loob. Ano? Or it provides uniform contact all ng film at saka screen all throughout the cassette. Okay, kaya may foam. So, how about the back? The back cover is usually made of heavy metal to minimize back scatter. Okay? So, hindi na to carbon fiber. So, the X-rays transmitted through the screen film combination to the back cover usually more readily undergo photoelectric effect in a high atomic number material than in a low atomic number material. Okay. Sige. Again, the back is usually made, hindi na siya yung carbon fiber. Kasi kung carbon fiber, so the radiation will pass through lang. So, kailangan stop natin doon yung X-ray. No? So, kaya yung material of choice is usually made of metal. Sabi dito, it will avoid or minimize backscatter. So, kung yung problema naman, kung mataas yung atomic number ng metal na gagamitin, mag-undergo siya ng photoelectric effect, which is parang may secondary radiation emission. Parang ganon yung photoelectric effect. So, the detailed explanation of the photoelectric effect will be discussed in the radiation production and characteristics. So, ganon. So, if there's an interaction between the atom of the material of the back part of the cassette, sabi dito magkakaroon ng photoelectric effect. Remember, photoelectric effect is secondary X-ray emission. So, hindi maganda. Kailangan, yung atomic number pala is medyo hindi siya ganun kataas. Ano? Okay, so guys, once you hold the cassette, tapos i-position nyo sa pasyente, hindi dapat siya maging ganito, no? Take note, yung backside is hindi dapat nakatapat sa X-ray tube. Dapat ganito. The front should always face the X-ray tube. Hindi ko naman sinasabi ganito yung positioning ng skull. Ano? Because may tamang position. So, hindi siya dapat nakaganyan lang. So, should be on a baki. However, yung intention ko is which side should face the X-ray tube and which side is not. Again, hindi dapat pa ganito. Otherwise, walang mabubuong X-ray image. So, dapat pa ganito. So, it should face the X-ray tube and the marker should always be on the right side of the patient. Pag nakahiga or pag nakaharap sa yung pasyente, yung marker should always be down. Pag nakakulob, kulob, pag naka-prone position, nakadapa, kailangan nasa up yun. Okay? So, yun. How about if i-open natin yung cassette? So, we will find the film screen combination. So, take note, class, that here in this subject, Principles of Imaging, our discussion will solely focus on the film screen technology. Kasi, nowadays, meron na tayong computed radiography and digital radiography. Hindi na sila gumagamit ng Xray film or ng intensifying screen. So again, our discussion will focus on film screen combination. Tawag natin dyan conventional radiography or analog type. Okay. Screens and films are manufactured for compatibility. This helps to ensure quality images at acceptable patient radiation dose. Screen film compatibility is essential. Use only those films for which the screens are designed. May term tayo dito. Tawag natin dito is spectral matching. Kailangan parehas yung color yung color na nai-emit ng intensifying screen should match the sensitivity of the film. Okay, halimbawa, yung cassette natin is nag-i-emit siya ng green light. Kailangan yung film sensitive siya sa green light. Okay? Kasi para mas mababa yung technical factor na gagamitin natin. Otherwise, if your screen emits blue light, pero yung film mo is green sensitive light, tataas yung technical factor para maging sensitive lang si Xray film. Okay? Sige, medyo malabo pa, no? So later, we will narrow it down or we will simplify our terms with our discussion. So, again, let's open the cassette. So, makita natin si intensifying screen at saka si film. So, let's discuss the intensifying screen. Papakilala ko sa inyo ano si intensifying screen, ano yung purpose niya. However, hindi pa ito yung detailed explanation because yung detailed nito is nasa film screen imaging analysis sa second semester. Sige, pakilala ko muna sa inyo. At least alam niyo na kung paano siya gamitin. So most radiographs are made with film in contact with a radiographic intensifying screen because use of a film alone requires high patient radiation dose. A radiographic intensifying screen is a device that converts the energy of the X-ray beam into visible light. This light then interacts with the radiographic film, forming the latent image. Okay, so sabi dito, ang purpose ng intensifying screen is i-convert yung X-ray na galing sa X-ray tube para maging visible light. Okay, bakit kailangan? So kaya sabi natin kanina, i-expose natin yung film via light. Kasi kung X-ray lang, taas yung technical factor. Okay? So the visible light then, siya yung mag-expose sa film to form latent image. Ano nga ba yung latent image, class? Okay, so yung latent image, technically this is the invisible image that is present on a radiographic film. So prior to development or to developing the film which is inside the Xray cassette, alam nating meron na siyang image pero hindi pa natin makita with our visible eye, with our naked eyes. So ang gagawin natin para maging matransform yung latent image into manifest image, ipraprocess na natin yung film sa dark room. I-develop natin and then i-fix natin para makita natin yung image. Ganon. So what I'm trying to say here is yung light, so yung light that is emitted by the intensifying screen will now expose the film which is inside the cassette. By the way, dalawa yung intensifying screen natin sa cassette. Later, we will find out bakit dalawa yung IS. So, kung makikita nyo, there is an emission of light pero hindi natin ma-identify yung color kasi masyado pang maliwanag sa exposure room. So, yung ginawa ko, I darkened our X-ray room. So, nag-image siya makikita natin ng emission ng light ng ating X-ray cassette is now on the green spectrum. Okay? So now let's get to know more about the intensifying screen by discussing the different parts of the intensifying screen. Okay, so we have the protective coating, we have the phosphor layer, reflective layer, and then we have the base. So, kilalanin natin yung protective coating. So the layer of the radiographic intensifying screen closest to the radiographic film is the protective coating. It is 10 to 20 micrometer thick and is applied to the face of the screen to make the screen resistant to abrasion and damage caused by handling. This layer also helps to eliminate buildup of static electricity and provides a surface for routine cleaning without disturbing the active phosphor. The protective layer is transparent to light. Kaya tinawag siyang protective coating. So, yes, in other words, it protects the sensitive portions of the intensifying screen. Okay? So, ganun lang. Kasi it doesn't mean that the cassette should be closed at all times. Kailangan may routine cleaning tayo, may maintenance tayo ng ating intensifying screen which is inside the cassette. Hindi lang ito naka-close all throughout kasi baka magkaroon na siya ng artifact, what if, di ba? So, okay. Next layers, of course, kung sa X-ray tube kung sa X-ray machine may X-ray tube which is the heart of the X-ray machine, dito naman meron naman tayong heart ng intensifying screen which is the phosphor layer. So the active layer of the radiographic intensifying screen is the phosphor. The phosphor emits light during stimulation by X-rays. So phosphor layers vary in thickness from 50 to 300 micrometer depending on the type of screen. So the active substance of most phosphors before about 1980 was crystalline calcium tungstate embedded in polymer matrix. The rare earth elements gadolinium, lanthanum, and yttrium are the phosphor material in newer, faster screens. Okay, so before, yung gamit natin is the calcium tungstate. So calcium tungstate, actually, the emission is in the blue to violet spectrum. So now, the newest, kasi wala pa naman tayong nadidiscover na materials other than which is what we call the rare earth elements such as the gadolinium, lanthanum, or yttrium. So the emission here is yung green to yellow spectrum. Okay? Sige. Let's get to know more about the phosphor layer. Again, si phosphor layer, siya yung heart ng intensifying screen kasi siya yung nag-i-emit ng visible light or siya yung nagko-convert ng X-ray into light. Diba? Nahirapan ako, no? So Röntgen discovered X-rays quite by accident. So he observed luminescence of barium platinocyanide. So barium platinocyanide was a phosphor that was never successfully applied to diagnostic radiology. So within 1 year of Röntgen's discovery of X-rays, the American inventor Thomas Edison developed calcium tungstate. So remember of the history of the phosphor material. So before, it was barium platinocyanide, but it was never applied to radiology. So it was replaced by calcium tungstate, as was discovered by Thomas Alva Edison. Although Edison demonstrated the use of radiographic intensifying screens before the beginning of the 20th century, screen film combinations did not come into general use until about the time of World War I. With improved manufacturing techniques and quality control procedures, calcium tungstate proved superior for nearly all radiographic techniques and, until the 1970s, was almost exclusively as the phosphor. Okay? So before daw, hindi pa naman gumagamit ng intensifying screen. So most ng mga exposures was made with the use of direct film exposure. So siguro there came problem during the World War I kaya ginamit na yung mga calcium tungstate. So until 1970, gumagamit tayo ng calcium tungstate, but eventually walang forever kaya ni-replace siya, no? So ano yung pinalit? Since then, rare earth screens have been used in diagnostic radiology. These screens are faster than those made of calcium tungstate, rendering them more useful for most types of radiographic imaging. Use of rare earth screens results in lower patient dose, less thermal stress on the X-ray tube, and reduced shielding for X-ray rooms. Ayun, kasi may nakitang mas magandang material for intensifying screen kaya pinalitan yung calcium tungstate. Again, ano yun? So, ito yung tinatawag nating rare earth. Particularly, yung mga na-mention natin kaninang elements, gadolinium, lanthanum, and the yttrium substances or elements. Okay, sige. So, let's come to reflective layer. So, ano naman si reflective layer? So, between the phosphor and the base is a reflective layer, approximately 25 micrometer thick, that is made of shiny substance such as magnesium oxide or titanium dioxide. When X-rays interact with the phosphor, light is emitted isotropically. So, yung emission ng light of phosphor, sabi dito isotropically. When we say isotropic, it is of equal intensity in all directions. All directions. Kaya, kailangan meron tayong reflective layer which has a purpose of so less than half of this light is emitted in the direction of the film. So the reflective layer intercepts light headed in other directions and redirects it to the film. The reflective layer enhances the efficiency of the radiographic intensifying screen, nearly doubling the number of light photons that reach the film. Kasi nga, sabi dito kanina, when the phosphor emit light, so it emits light isotropically with equal intensity in all direction. So yung main purpose ng reflective layer is to catch these lights in different direction and itututok niya doon sa X-ray film. Kaya again, sabi dito, it enhances the layer, the efficiency of radiographic intensifying screen. Ano? So without the reflective layer, so the light will be emitted, wala lang. Diba? So, yung purpose niya is parang itutok talaga yung ilaw papunta sa X-ray film. Yun. Kaya importante din siya. Next, we have the base. So, this is the last segment of the intensifying screen. So, the layer furthest from the radiographic film is the base. The base is approximately 1 mm thick and serves principally as the mechanical support for the active phosphor layer. So, polyester is the popular base material in radiographic intensifying screen, which is the same for radiographic film. Ano ulit yung material or base material ng intensifying screen? So, very good. This is polyester. Okay, yung polyester class is parang yung sliding folder nyo. Okay? Yung parang cellophane. Oo, yun yung polyester. So, yun yung base material ng intensifying screen, which is also the same as the base material for radiographic film. Okay, so let's get to know more about the intensifying screen. Take note ha, sabi natin, ulitin ko lang, dalawa yung intensifying screen sa Xray cassette. Merong sa front cover, meron ding intensifying screen located sa may back part ng cassette. So, any material that emits light in response to some outside stimulation is called luminescent material, or a phosphor, and the emitted visible light is called luminescence. A number of stimuli, including electric current, such as the fluorescent light, biochemical reactions, a lightning bug, a visible light, such as a watch dial, and X-rays, such as, with our discussion, the radiographic intensifying screen, cause luminescence in material. So again, luminescence, this is the emission of visible light after the stimulation of a phosphor or a luminescent material. So, meron palang luminescence biochemically. So, meron din namang artificially made. Okay. So, yung example natin, this is the lightning bug. Bukat kat sa amon term in waray-waray. Okay. So, there's the biochemical reactions kaya nag-i-emit siya ng visible light. Okay. So, paano nagkakaroon or how come that there is this emission of light? So, ito yun. When luminescent material is stimulated, the outer shell electrons are raised to excited energy levels. This effectively creates a hole in the outer shell electron, which is unstable for an atom. The hole is filled with the excited electron returns to its normal state. This transition is accompanied by emission of visible light. My apology that this portion is now not clearly illustrated. Nagkakaroon pala ng variation from laptop because I'm now using the cell phone. Okay, so based on our illustration, meron tayo ditong valence band and meron tayo ditong conduction band. Okay, so when there's an excitation such as a stimulus, so sa ating illustration, X-ray photon. So ni-stimuli niya yung outermost portion or outermost electron ng ating phosphor, ano? So typically mari-raised ito to a higher energy level, which means from the conduction band, so it will be from the valence band, so it will be raised to an imaginary line, which what we call the conduction band. However, sabi dito, it will make the atom unstable. Kaya eventually, para maging stable siya, babalik siya from the conduction band to its valence band. So, kasi, anong gagamit nating illustration? Kung, halimbawa, dumaan yung crush mo, iba kinilig ka. So, si crush is parang stimuli. So, kinilig ka. So, your normal state of being will be raised to an excited state. Kinilig ka to the max. However, dumaan lang naman si crush kaya babalik ka sa normal posture, normal self. Okay? So, upon the raising to in excited state and then when it returns to its normal position, so magi-emit siya ng light. Okay? So, ganun yun. Kaya, halimbawa, for certain, yung mga common na mga na ginagamit natin like fluorescent bulb. So, yung stimulus natin there is the electricity. So, ini-stimuli natin yung outer shell electron ng fluorescent bulb, especially the filament, and then, since excitation lang, so it will be raised to a conduction band and then eventually it will return to its From its valence band, pupunta siya sa conduction band, and then eventually, babalik siya sa valence band. And then, the raising up, tapos, and when it returns, nag-i-emit siya ng light. Ganon din yung nangyayari sa ating phosphor element ng intensifying screen. Okay? I hope na-gets nyo. I hope nakukuha nyo yung discussion ko. Okay, so let's move on. So the range of excited energy states for an outer shell electron is narrow, and these states depend on the structure of phosphor. So the wavelength of emitted light is determined by the level of excitation to which the electron is raised and is characteristic of a given phosphor. In other words, luminescent materials emit light of a characteristic color. So, calcium tungstate, ano yung color niya? Blue to violet spectrum. Yung rare earth, ano yung color niya? Diba? It is from green to yellow emission. So, ganon yun. So, by the way, yung makikita nyo is aurora borealis. Probably, I'm not quite so sure, but may mga nabasa ako na aurora borealis is a type of luminescence. Sige, basahin nyo na lang if you have time for that. Sige, let's move on. So, two types of luminescence have been identified. So, take note class, if the light is emitted only when the phosphor is stimulated, this is called fluorescence. On the other hand, if the phosphor continues to emit light after stimulation, then the process is called phosphorescence. I hope I can show you these two types of luminescence, but since we are on a virtual class, I'm afraid I can do that. No? So take note lang ha, fluorescence and phosphorescence are two types of luminescence. Alam niyo na yung kaibahan nila. Diba when Röntgen discovered X-ray, so the barium platinocyanide fluoresce. Hindi siya nag-phosphorescence, but that's the phenomenon there was fluorescence, not phosphorescence. However, it is luminescence. Okay, so now let's come to the radiographic film, which is important. Kasi yung film, yung magpapakilala ng identity nyo as radiologic technologist. What I'm trying to say here is, if your image is maputi, which means maputi kayong radtech, no, medyo nag-aalangan kayo sa mga technical factors nyo. Kaya medyo hindi siya good quality. Kung yung quality naman yung X-ray film nyo is talagang maitim, meaning maitim yung budhi nyo, probably galit kayo sa mundo, hindi kayo nagtitipid ng kuryente, hindi kayo nagtitipid ng KVP at ng MAS, kaya maitim yung mga kuha nyo. Yan. So, ganon, sabi ko, it will be your identity as radiologic technologist. Okay, so image-forming X-rays exit the patient and expose the radiographic intensifying screen placed in the protective radiographic cassette. The radiographic intensifying screen emits visible light, which exposes the radiographic film placed between two screens. Although some X-rays reach the film emulsion, it is principally light from the radiographic intensifying screens that expose the radiographic film. Ayun naman pala. So now you can picture it out. Okay, so the production of X-rays from the X-ray tube, and then kung nang makaproduce na tayo ng X-ray film, so it will pass through the patient. After niya mag-pass through ng patient, yung X-ray marireceive ng cassette. So dun sa cassette, meron tayong intensifying screen, which is the purpose of intensifying screen is to convert the X-ray into visible light. And then the light from that screen will now expose the radiographic film. So alam nyo na yung sequence, alam nyo na yung principle of imaging. Class? I hope nakukuha nyo, no? So, ganun yung sequence, chronology of event. X-ray production sa X-ray tube, and then the X-ray will be emitted from the X-ray tube. It will interact with the patient. Okay, so after makapag-interact sa patient, it will be received by the cassette, and then the intensifying screen inside the cassette will convert the X-ray into visible light. So depending on its energy, so the light or the X-ray will be converted into light, which then the light will expose the film and the image will now be formed. Yun yung sinasabi natin kaninang latent image. So ito class, makikita nyo yung ginagawa ni Danica ng critic ni Danica is now a manifest image. Visible na siya to the naked eye. Okay, so radiographic film has two basic parts. We have the base and we have the emulsion. Okay, so in most X-ray film, the emulsion is coated on both sides. Therefore, it is called double emulsion film. So between the emulsion and the film, emulsion and the base is a thin coating material called the adhesive layer, which is sometimes called substratum. This one. So which ensures uniform adhesion of the emulsion to the base. This adhesive layer allows the emulsion and the base to maintain proper contact and integrity during the use and processing. Ano pa? So the emulsion is enclosed by a protective covering of the gelatin called the overcoat, or in our illustration this is called supercoating. This overcoat or supercoat protects the emulsion from scratches, pressure, and contamination during handling, processing, and storage. The thickness of the radiographic film is approximately 150 to 300 micrometer thick. Okay? So, alam nyo na kung bakit dadalawa. So now you can identify bakit dalawa yung intensifying screen sa loob ng cassette. Kasi dadalawa yung emulsion. Kailangan ma-expose yung dalawang emulsion na yan. Ano? So that's the basic reason. So let's get to know more about our X-ray film na ginagamit natin. Starting with the base, yung nasa center. So the base is the foundation of radiographic film. So its primary purpose is to provide a rigid structure into which the emulsion can be coated. The base is flexible and fracture resistant to allow easy handling, but is rigid enough to be snapped into the view box. The base of a radiographic film maintains its size and shape during use and processing so that it does not contribute to image distortion. This property of the base is known as dimensional stability. The base is of uniform lucency and is nearly transparent to light. So again, yung purpose niya is siya yung hahawak sa emulsion, sa dalawang emulsion ng ating X-ray film. So kailangan matibay siya, kailangan hindi siya marupok. Ano? Okay? So, eto pa. Kailangan, during manufacturing, dye is added to the base of most radiographic film to slightly tint the film blue. Compared with untinted film, this coloring reduces eye strain and fatigue, enhancing radiologist's diagnostic efficiency and accuracy. So, ito yung hawak ni Keith, yung film. So, take note, if you are the radiologist, so ikaw yung gagawa ng X-ray result, tapos, babasahin mo lahat ng film, ipapasok mo siya dito sa view box or sa negatoscope. No? Ay, hindi pala ipapasok. Ilalapat mo siya doon. Kung walang blue, normally, mananakit yung mata mo. Remember, babasahin mo lahat ng X-ray film for 8 hours a day. Tapos, tututok ka sa light na yan. Ano? Kung walang filter, kung walang blue, kung walang tint yung film, of course, masakit yun sa mata. Ano? Kaya sabi dito, so it reduces eye strain and fatigue. So, enhancing radiologist accuracy, efficiency, and accuracy. So, ganon. Bakit may color blue? Blue is a universal color. It's a friendly color. So, other than that, ano pa? So, kanina, kung sa phosphor material ng intensifying screen, nagbago-bago din yung material, ganun din sa base. So, before, or the original radiographic film base was glass plate. So, radiologists used to refer radiographs as of X-ray plates. So, during World War I, high-quality glass became largely unavailable while medical applications of X-rays, particularly by the military, were increasing rapidly. So, no? Before pala yung gamit is plate. Parang Corel lang. Branded pa. So, before kasi, I don't know bakit sa plate. Kaya yung may nabasa akong article about kay Theodore Roosevelt na X-ray siya gamit yung plate, glass plate. So meaning yung mga kumbaga yung mga pinagkakainan pwede bang kainan? Hindi kasi baka ma-erase yung image. So yung mga X-ray images noon is nakalagay siya sa mga plato-plato, mga pinggan-pinggan. So imagine niyo yung bahay niyo Corel tapos may X-ray image. Parang maganda siya in a way pero kung may sakit or may pathology, gaganahan ka pa bang kumain? Pero hindi naman to kinakainan class, Okay, so during World War I kasi maraming injuries, maraming need ng X-ray images kaya nagkaroon ng scarcity ng supply ng mga plates. Kaya eventually napalitan siya. Naghanap tayo ng mas material na madaling hanapin. However, mas maganda yung quality din naman compared sa glass plate. So, imaginein mo yung sarili mo, ikaw radtech ka, tapos gagamit kayo ng glass plate, magfa-file ka ng mga images nyo sa file room, tapos mga plato-plato pa, no? So, parang kusina yan, na yung file room nyo. Tapos, na-aksidente, nabagsak mo yung plate, so nabasag, so wala nang image. So, di ba? So, kaya noon, tawag noon is X-ray plate, hindi X-ray film. Kaya, actually, yung jargon na yan, yung plate na yan, nadadala pa natin yan sa modern days. Example, yung X-ray ng abdomen. Most doctors would prefer to use, may request doon, abdomen, sabi, sa abdomen, tapos, may FPU. Yung P dyan, or FP, sabi dyan, flat plate. Kasi before, tawag talaga dyan is glass plate. Flat plate kasi nakalapat lang yung plate sa table. Whereas upright, pinapatayo yung plate sa table. Kaya, yung jargon, yung terminology na yan, na plate, is nadala pa natin from our film-based history. So, yun. Okay, so sabi nga natin, medyo mahal-mahal yung glass plate as material, kaya eventually, napalitan siya. Especially kung Corel yung gamitin mo as glass plate, social yun. Kaya napalitan siya ng cellulose nitrate. So, a substitute material, cellulose nitrate soon became the standard base. Cellulose nitrate, however, had one serious deficiency. It was flammable. Very hot siya. Kakasunog. Improper storage and handling of some X-ray film files resulted in severe hospital fires during the 1920s and early 1930s. So, hindi magandang gamitin. Especially kung sa hospital nyo maraming smokers na mga radtech. So, dati naging headline na may mga sunog mga hospital kasi it's because of the films or the film-based materials that were used in that hospital. So, since masyado siyang hot, masyado siyang mainitin yung ulo, so eventually, we have to replace that. Hindi maganda. So, from glass, naging cellulose nitrate. So, na-replace naman siya ng cellulose triacetate. So, by the mid-1920s, film with a safety base, such as the cellulose triacetate, was introduced. Cellulose triacetate has properties similar to those of cellulose nitrate, but it is not flammable. Hindi siya madaling, hindi siya nasusunog. Pero yung disadvantage naman niya is, masyado siyang larawang kupas. Malabo. No? Kung yung glass plate, masyadong marupok, masyadong fragile, oh my God. So, na-replace siya ng cellulose nitrate. Pero masyado naman siyang hot. Nagliliyab siya. Kaya na-replace siya ng cellulose triacetate. Sa cellulose triacetate naman, hindi siya nagkikeep ng memory. Madali siyang mag-warp yung image. Madali, parang kanta lang, larawang kupas. So, pinalitan natin siya eventually, which is, nowadays, we are now using the polyester. Yung sinasabi ko, parang sliding folder nyo. So, yung sliding folder nyo, may mga color-color. Diba? May mga white, may yellow, may red, whatsoever. Pero sa atin, sa radiography, isa lang yung color, universal color, which is blue. Okay? So in the early 1960s, polyester base was introduced. Polyester has taken the place of cellulose triacetate as the film base of choice. Polyester is more resistant to warping from age and is stronger than cellulose triacetate, permitting easier transport through automatic processors. Its dimensional stability is superior. Polyester bases are thinner than triacetate bases, its thickness is from 175 micrometer, but are just as strong. So yun, kaya pala na-replace. Hindi siya fragile, hindi siya flammable, hindi siya madaling kumupas yung larawan. Again, its dimensional stability is superior compared with other base materials. Okay. So, let's come to the next portion of the X-ray film, which is the emulsion. The emulsion is considered the heart of the radiographic film. Buti pa yung film may heart, samantalang siya wala. Joke. So it is the material with which X-rays or light photons from the radiographic intensifying screens interact. So the emulsion consists of homogeneous mixture of gelatin and silver halide crystals. It is coated evenly with a layer that is 3 to 5 micrometer thick. Kung makita nyo, di ba, kasi sabi natin kanina, the base is 175 micrometer thick. So the silver halide crystals or the gelatin or the emulsion in general is only 3 to 5 micrometer thick. Kaya maganda pala yung illustration natin. So typically, this is some sort of emulsion, the materials that is in the emulsion. So dalawa yun. Meron tayong gelatin at meron tayong silver halide crystals. So the gelatin is similar to that used in salads and desserts but is of much higher quality. It is clear so that it transmits light and it is sufficient porous for processing chemicals to penetrate to the crystals of silver halide. Its principal function is to provide mechanical support for the silver halide crystals by holding them uniformly dispersed in place. Yung gelatin, para siya yung paste. Oo, so yung paste, kasi yung component niya as gelatin is nandun na yung silver halide crystals. So yun. So siya yung igagawang palamuti doon sa base. So ito yung silver halide crystals naman is the active ingredient of the radiographic emulsion. So in the typical emulsion, so remember class that 98% of the silver halide crystal is silver bromide and the remainder, the 2%, is silver iodide. So ito yung atomic numbers ng mga silver halide crystals. So these atoms have relatively high atomic numbers for bromide, that is 35, and for silver, that is 47, and for iodine, that is 53. Compared with gelatin and the base, which has atomic number of 7. So the interaction of X-ray and light photons with these high atomic number atoms ultimately results in the formation of a latent image on the radiograph. Ano ulit yung latent image? Again, latent image, this is the image that is not yet visible in the human eye. So during the X-ray procedure, alam nating nagkaroon ng interaction yung X-ray tube, patient, at saka yung cassette. So, alam natin nang doon na yung image. But, hindi pa siya nade-develop. Kaya ang tawag natin doon is latent image. Hindi pa siya talaga visible to the human eye. Para maging visible siya, para maging manifest image, now, dadalhin natin yung film sa dark room. Doon, ipaprocess natin. So, we will reduce the emulsion into now a visible image. So, yung detail talaga niya is nasa second semester pa class. Kaya, yung gagawin natin dito is parang binibigay ko sa inyo yung overview of the creation of the image. Okay, so lastly, we have the types of X-ray films. So, hindi lang naman typical yung ginagamit natin na may cassette. What if yung X-ray is yung ngipin? Ipapasok ba natin yung cassette sa loob ng bibig ng pasyente? Sige daw, imaginein mo yung bibig mo o yung ngipin mo X-ray, papasukin ba yan ng cassette? Ang laki-laki ng mga cassette, di ba? Hindi. So, meron tayo. So, una, of course, yung gumagamit tayo ng cassette, screen film. So, again, sa ating discussion, mostly, nandito tayo sa screen film technology. Kasi may ibang subject tayo, which is yung computed radiography or digital radiography. So, screen film is the type of film that is used with radiographic intensifying screens. So, several characteristics must be considered when one is selecting screen film. So, contrast, the speed, spectral matching, anti-crossover or anti-halation dye, and requirement for safe light. So, ito yung mga details nito, posible nating ma-discuss this semester. Yung speed kanina, yung sinasabi ko, sensitivity ng film. Paano niya ano yung response niya sa light na na-emit ng cassette, ng intensifying screen. Gaano siya kabilis mag-respond sa light na yon. Spectral matching is of course, yung sinabi ko din kanina, kung calcium tungstate yan, blue, kailangan blue sensitive din yung film. If this is rare earth, green yung light, so green sensitive dapat yung film. So anti-crossover, anti-halation, requirement for safe light. Halimbawa kasi yung safe light nyo is red yung light, tapos gumamit kayo ng blue sensitive, so may expose yung film na yan sa dark room. So if gumagamit tayo yung ginagamit natin yan, rare earth, tapos green sensitive, yung safe light natin should be in red spectrum, kaya hindi siya ganun ka-sensitive sa light. So ganun yun. May mga requirement. So other than that, we have standard film sizes na ginagamit natin. So take note of that kasi baka one of these days tawagin kayo ng mga radtech. So ano yung mga standard sizes and their counterpart in centimeter. So for 8x10 sa centimeter is 20x25. Yung 10x12, that is 24x30. Yung 11x14, that is 30x35. Yung 14x14 is 35x35. And then 14x17, 35x43. Okay, so take note of that class Baka magkaroon tayo ng chapter test. So at least alam nyo na. So as I've said, kung magpapadental x-ray kayo, so hindi na kayo gagamit ng screen film. So gagamitin natin is direct exposure film. So the use of radiographic intensifying screens with film allows reduced technique and therefore reduced patient radiation dose. The emulsion of a direct film is thicker than that of screen film, and it contains a higher concentrations of silver halide crystals to improve direct X-ray interaction. So, mas makapal yung emulsion, pero mas mataas yung technical factor na gagamitin natin for a certain exposure. Kasi nga, wala siyang katuwang na intensifying screen para mag-expose sa film. Kaya mataas yung factor, yung technical factor. But class, remember hindi ko naman sinasabi na yung film na yon, yung ating X-ray film na sa screen film is hindi siya magre-respond sa X-ray. Kaya nga, yung design ng darkroom nyo should be paiba siya hindi siya dapat nasa likod ng inyong primary barrier. Kasi other than that, magkakaroon tayo ng fog. So, we also have mammography film. Boys, yung tingin nyo dito lang sa text, hindi sa illustration. So, mammography film is a single emulsion that is designed to be exposed with a single radiographic intensifying screen. All currently available mammographic screen film systems use green-emitting terbium-doped gadolinium oxysulfide screens with green-sensitive film. So, may halong terbium yung rare earth natin. Okay, para mas maging sensitive pa daw siya. Okay, kasi yung gamit natin dito is single emulsion, hindi na double emulsion, kaya isa lang dapat yung radiographic intensifying screen. So ito yung typical illustration niya. So, yung nakikita nyo is mammographic film. So, merong emulsion, mayroong base, at mayroong anti-halation layer, which is different kanina sa ating radiographic film, which has double emulsion. Emulsion, base, tapos emulsion na naman. So, the surface of the base opposite the screen is coated with a special light-absorbing dye to reduce reflection. Ayon, kaya may anti-halation layer. Okay, which is transmitted through the emulsion and the base. This effect is called halation, and the absorbing dye is called an anti-halation coating. Such an anti-halation coating is used on all single emulsion screen film, not just mammography film. So, meron palang iba pang mga films. Okay, single emulsion, yung na-mention natin kanina. Actually, may mga iba pang klaseng films na pwedeng gamitan sa radiography na hindi natin ma-mention in this discussion. So, the coating is removed during processing for better viewing. Again halation, this is yung parang nag-spread out yung light. So, kaya meron tayong anti-halation para na-prevent niya yung scattering of light or property of light scattering. Okay. So, I guess, okay, that ends my discussion. So, if you have questions, so don't hesitate to ask me. So, we have different platforms. Of course, you may reach me through the chat in the UEP e-learning portal that is available in the Moodle. Other than that, you may personally send your message through Facebook Messenger or through our group chat, or you may comment your questions here in this video, in this YouTube video. Okay, so that ends my discussion, and see you in the posted chapter test in the e-learning portal. So that ends my discussion again. So God bless and take care. Goodbye.